Hello, Tina. How are you? I'm glad to have you on. I'm really excited to have everybody on. I'm going to give it a couple minutes to see who else hops on. How have you been? I just wanted to welcome everybody again to my live. This is part one of a three-part series, just like my Artemis series. I'm going to go through the same type of format. So this one is informational, and then the next one will be working with him in the craft, and then the last one will be a do something together. And for this particular one, we are going to be making oracle cards at the end of this series. Now, if you are watching on a replay, make sure that you tell me that you're watching on a replay, and then comment at least 5 comments throughout the whole live video as you're watching it. Same thing if you're catching this on YouTube. I really appreciate if you comment as you're watching through it, and I will try my best to answer all the comments on both Facebook and on YouTube. If you have watched my Artemis series, this kind of continues on it. If you haven't watched it yet, you may want to watch it. You don't need to. You can watch Apollo first and then go back to Artemis. But since they are twins, a lot of their stuff intertwines and interchanges type of thing. So today we are discussing Apollo. Who here already knows about Apollo? And what do you know about him? The Greeks named him Apollyon. The Romans kept his name Apollo. That's where, since most gods got new names when they switched from the Greek religion to the Roman religion. For example, Zeus became Juniper, Hera became Juno, Artemis became Diana, but Apollo stayed Apollo. I guess the Romans just liked his name so much they never changed it. Hello, Rosaline. Are you still from the Orion story? Yeah. They definitely have each other's back though. But he definitely isn't always the god of light, as in the god of being good. But yes, I kind of get mad at him too. I tend to work more with her, but since I am very much the balance, I like balance, I work with him as well. I think we all are Team Artemis when it comes to the Apollo and Orion myths. No, they really are. They are twins. So, I mean, it's just like any other sibling, I'm sure. He got jealous that she was paying attention, but he also did it because, and we have to give him credit to this, she took the vow of chastity. And she was getting so close to Orion that he was actually protecting her chastity and her virginity. So it wasn't that he was just being a jerk. It actually was him protecting his older sister. Now here's some fun facts about Apollo. He is one of the 12 Olympians. His father is Zeus, the king of the gods, and his mother is Leto. She is a Titaness, as I explained in Artemis' story, and then of course he is the twin younger brother of Artemis. If Greek gods were family business, Apollo would be an overachiever. He runs more departments than anybody else. He has a lot of things that he is the god of. So here is his resume. He is the god of prophecy and oracles. If you wanted to know the future, you went to Delphi. He's the god of music and poetry. He plays the lyre. He leads the muses. He's the god of archery. His arrows never miss, just like his sisters. He's the god of healing and plague. So he heals or he kills you. So that's that kind of dual light and dark. So he's kind of a neutral type of spirit. He can cure you from your disease, or he can wipe out your whole city, depending on how much you guys offended him or how much you need him. And I have a really good story. Ronette, hello, welcome. I actually just started, so you really didn't miss much. I was just kind of doing a recap of who Apollo is. And, like, he is an overachieving god. He has 8 different jobs, which is a lot for the Greeks. He protects boys as they become adults. So kind of like how Artemis protects women up through childbirth, he protects the males. Later poets called him the god of the sun, but the first god was Helios. Helios was a titan. Apollo's core is light, order, and harmony. Greeks called his vibe Apollyon. It means rational, clear, balanced, and self-controlled. Think geometry, think a fine-tuned instrument, a perfectly stringed bow. Think of rules that make sense. If you see him in art, he's always a beardless youth. The Greeks never let Apollo get old. He is always 20 years old. forever and ever and ever. He usually has a laurel wreath on his head, and he's holding either a lyre or a bow for archery. Sometimes he has both, depending on the. I know his haircut drives me crazy too. Sometimes he'll be holding the bow, like he'll have the quiver and the bow in one hand and the lyre in the other hand. It just depends on the artist. He always looks calm, beautiful, and perfectly proportioned. He looks like he could be modeling a cologne while quoting poetry. He was what the Greeks defined as the ideal, perfect male body. Now, the reason why I have this picture is to show him his sister birthing him, but then he instantly grew up like her. So here is Apollo's birth story. Of course, it's going to go along with Artemis, so I'm just kind of going to give you the cliff notes of it. His birth story, just like his sister's, was a Greek soap opera, and it explains a lot about his personality, as I told you in the Artemis series. Leto gets pregnant by Zeus. Hera, his wife, finds out. Her revenge is very creative and terrible. She bans all land, mainland, islands, or cave from sheltering Leto in birth. Then she sends the serpent the Python to chase Leto and kill her. Leto is 9 months pregnant, homeless, and hunted. When she comes upon the Aegean Sea, each island turns her away, fearing Hera's wrath, until she finds the tiny little Delos, a floating island not anchored to the sea floor. This island lets her give birth. Artemis, of course, was born first, fast and capable. She was given ambrosia and instantly became an adult, becoming her mother's midwife for Apollo. Apollo's labor lasts 9 days. This poor woman suffered for 9 days after she gave birth to her daughter to have her son. Apollo was finally born after 9 days of labor. The goddesses fed him ambrosia and nectar, the food of the gods, just like his sister, and he grows up instantly. Leaps up, calls for a bow, and a lyre, and these become his two main wheelhouses. We have a Hometic hymn to Apollo from 700 BCE, where Homer says, "The lyre and the carved bowl shall be dear to me, and I declare to men the will of Zeus." Basically, he was declaring himself as the son of Zeus, and that he was picking this as one of his two jobs. On day 1, he claims music, archery, and poetry by speaking to his father, and his father gives him, because as you remember, Apollo and Artemis are kind of the favorite children, and you see it a lot throughout myths. Delos anchors to the sea floor and becomes famous for 1,000 years. The Greeks banned birth and deaths on that particular island, so if you were on the island and you were pregnant, sick, or dying, they would actually ship you off to another island to do your birth or your death. So this is the classical Apollo look, how he looks very young. Apollo's birth explains his look and art. Beauty and virtue were the same. Apollo is this ideal male. So to sum up his birth was conflicted. His mother was cast out as a Titaness because she loved Zeus. He fights to exist by killing the Python after his mother gave birth. The first thing he does is declare law, order, and his link to Zeus once he's able to talk. That is basically how Apollo is. He's very loud, where his sister's very quiet. I am doing well, Ellen. Thank you. He really isn't, though. Like, I would never call him a jerk because of the things that he does. You have to remember that there's a lot of children that are the children of Zeus, and Apollo kind of gets it handed to him a little bit later on too. I am very slow to call him a jerk because I know him a lot for healing and prophecy, and he can be petty. I will say he's petty, and I definitely don't want my oracle skills and my divination skills to go wonky. So I wouldn't personally call him a jerk. He does definitely act like a male god, and he is a god. Like, we have to remember that he is a god, and gods are very proud. Alright, so here are our twins. Our moon goddess and our light god, who becomes the sun god. Apollo and Artemis. the twins who rule by division. And by division, I mean dividing things in half, not dividing people. Before exploring Apollo's other roles, let's consider Artemis first. Understanding Apollo requires knowing Artemis. They are twins, designed to be opposites who complete one idea. They were born together on Delos. She is action, instinct, and speed. He is order, speech. She brings him into the world, and he tells the world who he is. How they divide the world. Girls dedicate toys to Artemis before marriage. Boys go to Apollo when they become men. And honestly, Apollo is a male. Like, I can say this working with him, he is a male. His energy is so much different than hers. He very much is. I am a god, worship me. But also, if somebody's dying, he will do everything in his power to heal them. And I will get into this more. Ellen says, I like your approach, Angel. I feel like a lot of modern things paint him as a bad light, which doesn't really align to the work he does. Absolutely. And as we know, this is, if I had a matron and a patron, these are them. But also, you have to remember, Apollo is the perfect man, so when he's in stories, they're kind of gonna bring up that arrogance, and he is arrogant, and he gets it. He really does get it handed to him, and like I said, I'll get to that. First it's the light, and then it becomes the sun. Different realm. Apollo gets the city, the temples, the court. He is your justice. He will work with Athena with this. And theater. His realm is civilizations, walls, columns, measured music. Artemis gets the wilderness, mountains, forests, outside the city walls. Her realm is nature beyond laws. If men die quickly, Greeks say Apollo shoots them a mercy. When Artemis brings a sudden death to a woman, it is her. If they die young, Greeks say Artemis shot them, either it being because they were sick. Most likely it was a way they explained women dying suddenly in childbirth, that going through the childbirth would have been so detrimental to the woman and she would have suffered so much that Artemis shoots her with her silver bowl to put him out of her misery. Renette, okay, so where do I get my research? I have studied Greek mythology in these two since I was 13 years old. So I have done every Greek mythology book that you can think of. I have taken multiple high school and college courses on Greek mythology, and I also am very connected with these two, so it's also conversation with them as well. But there is a vast amount, and in my since I can't go on screen with this one because I'm doing this slideshow, in my Artemis Live, there's actually a book that is for Apollo and Artemis, and another one that I really, really recommend. I don't have them where I'm at right now, so I can actually comment those as well once I get those together. But yeah, both Artemis and Apollo will bring quick deaths. This is the control that the twins have when it comes to death, to be gentle in times that you need it. Now, this is how they work together. They don't compete. They cooperate. The best example is with Niobe's story. We'll go deeper into that in a little bit. This is one of the 3 myths that I'm sharing. But the short version is Niobe insults Leto, Apollo kills her sons, Artemis kills her daughters. They don't argue about who goes first. They don't get in each other's way. He handles the boys, she handles the girls. Order is restored. The twins are a matched pair of archers enforcing the same law. During the Trojan War, both twins take the side of Apollo sends the plague to Greeks, which I'll get into that in a little bit, and Artemis demands a sacrifice before the Greeks can sail. They manage the same war on opposite angles. How they are different. Apollo talks. Like I said before, he is very loud. This is how I work with him most. He gives oracles. He writes poetry. He leads the muses. He's the god of words. Artemis is silent. She doesn't give oracles. She acts. She runs. She hunts. She shoots. Apollo speaks through the Pythania. I just messed that Pythia. In Delphi, Artemis stays wild and punishing. If you see her bathe, she turns you into a stag for your own dogs to kill. Kion can pray to him. You can make a sacrifice. You can cite a law. He might listen. He will judge accordingly, and he will let you do an appeal if he judges. Artemis, on the other hand, is wilder. If you break her rules, there's no appeal, and she will judge instantly. And Taurus civilization becomes god of law, music, philosophy, and prophecy. Artemis stays wild. She never joins cities. She guards the boundaries between the city and the wild. This is how the Greeks thought. The world needed both. You need a city and the wild. You need the law, and you need a place outside the law. You need boys to become men and girls to survive childbirth. You need the sun and the moon. Artemis and Pearl together covered the whole human experience from birth to death. He's the bright, rational, civilized half. She's the dark, instinctual, natural half. They're twins because you can't do with one without the other. Yes, I love Greek mythology so much. So we're going to go ahead and get on to his core domains because he is a little god of everything. Light, healing, music, prophecy, plague, and archery are his main things. He gives life by healing, and he can take it away by giving you the plague. And I think if you appeal to him, he could take the sickness away as well. With the twin context, look at Apollo's jobs again. They all make sense as the city half of the division. There's a theme that connects everything: distance, clarity, and control. Apollo doesn't get messy. He doesn't wrestle you in the mud like Hercules. He acts from far away accurately and brings order. That's why he's an archer. Oh yeah, Ellen, it's absolutely really fun to work with them as the twins. There is so much you can do with that using the sun and the moon and that balance, especially since as human beings now, we're all pretty much in civilization. So it's nice to have somebody that can kind of deeply root you into that, especially if you're a divination type of person. He is definitely your oracle. He is your oracle giver. He's the one that does that. And poor Cassandra, he takes it away. Well, he didn't really take it away. She was right. Nobody believed her. So we're actually going to start with prophecy and oracles. Apollo isn't the source of prophecy. That's Zeus that knows the future. Apollo's job is to interpret it and deliver it to humans. His main sacred place is at Delphi. For over 1,000 years, if you were a king or a general or even just a common farmer, if you had a problem, issue, or just needed to get life sorted out, you went to Delphi to ask Apollo what to do. This is Delphi and his temple. This is his statue, and this is the main temple. So in order to work with the oracle at Delphi, you would travel there. You would pay a fee and sacrifice a goat. If the goat nodded when they sprinkled it with water, that was a good omen. You get to ask your question. If the goat does not nod, you do not get to ask your question that day, and you have to try again. Then, once you get the okay, you went into the temple. There was a priestess called the Pythia. She sat on a broad tripod over a crack in the earth. Ancient writers say fumes would come up from the crack. She would inhale them and go into a trance and start babbling. The male priest would listen and translate her ravings into a poem and then into a hexameter verse. That was Apollo's answer. So there's a couple of his things working together: the poetry and the prophecy. The answers were famous for being true, but also confusing and opaque. It sounds like our tarot cards and our oracle cards and other types of divination as well. You don't always get a blunt, straightforward answer, which kind of explains why our oracles work the way they do, because sometimes he's just a little cryptic. Carved over the temple Dora was two sayings that basically define Apollo's whole prophecy. This was actually in Greek, but it was know thyself was the first one, and then the second one is nothing in excess. Nothing in excess. That's Apollo in 5 words: self-knowledge and moderation. All right. Let me go ahead and play this for a second, let you guys listen to this. So this is actually a lyre playing, just like I had at the beginning. I picked this particular picture because it's one for the prophecy of Apollo. And then this is him with the muses. As stated in his birth story, Apollo gets his lyre on the day he is born. His brother Hermes actually invented it. Hermes snuck out of his crib, steals 50 of Apollo's cattle because they got cattle on their birth, and invents a lyre by stretching the strings over a tortoise shell. Apollo is furious, but Hermes plays the lyre for him, and Apollo is so impressed that he trades the cattle for the instrument. Apollo becomes the leader of the Muses. Muses are the 9 goddesses of arts and scientists. Epic poetry, history, music, comedy, tragedy, I don't know why I said that weird, dance, love poetry, hymns, and astronomy. Astronomy, I cannot talk. Greeks used Apollo's music to define what they thought good art should be. They contrasted him to Dionysus. Dionysus is the god of wine, theater, and ecstasy. His instrument is a double pipe. His music is emotional, wild, and breath-driven. You can't sing words while you play it. Apollo's lyre is ordered, mathematical, and clear. You can count the beats. You can sing with lyrics. Apollonian art is dreams, sculpture, individuality, and clarity. Dionysian art is music, dance, and ecstasy, losing yourself in the crowd. The Greeks thought you needed both, but Apollo was always the one that kept things from flying apart. So Apollo was always the god of music and poetry. It may just be that because of the screen sharing, it didn't play the music, and I don't know if there's a way to fix that, which kind of stinks, but I can drop the links to both videos after I get off the live. But yes, if you're a artsy type of person, Apollo is your god within this pantheon. All right, so next is going to be archery, plague, and sudden death. Apollo's other nickname is far shooter. Also, he who works from afar. Again, distance is key. He doesn't have to touch you to affect you. He sends an arrow. His arrows do 2 main things. First, they bring sudden death, like you see in the boys and the men who need it, and then the dying quickly without a long, painful illness, which is a mercy from the gods. So you have to be a very devout, good person to receive that. If a man dies suddenly, they are said to be blessed by Apollo's shot. If a woman dies suddenly, she is said to be blessed by Artemis's shot. The second arrow brings plague. In the very start of the Iliad, the first book of Western literature is about this. The Greek army is at Troy. Their leader, Agamemnon, insults Apollo's priest and takes his daughter. The priest prays to Apollo for help. Apollo hears him, comes down from Olympus, and for 9 days he stands outside of the Greek camp far away and shoots plague arrows into it. First the mules die, and then the dogs start dying. Then the men start dying. Finally, they figure out why and return the priest's daughter to him, and the plague stops. So Apollo is precise, he is distant, and he is terrifying. He can kill you without even getting close. See, I think, you're looking at it through a pop culture type of way. Music and poetry, prophecy, and art is his thing. Definitely, I think reach out to him and get to know him personally, because they do use him as being very arrogant, and he's not like that. the actual God is not like that. He has his moments because he's a god, but like he definitely helps when you're trying to write. He's helping with music. I'm a Libra, so I'm extremely creative, which is probably why I connect so well with him. And then my personal birth chart is like all down in the moon area in the darker part of the birth chart. So I think that's why I connect so well with the twins. All right, so now we're going to get on to him as healing and averting evil. Here's the double edge. The same God who sends plague can cure it. He is called the healer because of this. He's also called the averter of evil. He's the father of the god that is the god of medicine. The way to think about it is that Apollo is medicine with a capital M. He's the principle of healing. The other gods and goddesses are your individual doctors. So they answer to him. He is the Olympian over medicine. So if you're sick, you pray to Apollo. If he is angry, he sends plague. Same department, just two different sides. Either he's saving life or bringing death. Why I will get back to this particular son, but you know the symbol of medical? That is actually his son's thing. I don't know why he didn't put his son's name in here, but I know I have it later. All right. So now we're going to clear up the sun versus light. This is Helios. This is Apollo. Apollo is called bright, pure, or radiant. He is absolutely associated with light. But in early Greek myth, light means clarity, truth, purification, and intellectual illumination. So that's the arts and using your mind. It means the light that exposes things and makes them clearer. The actual sun is a different god. Helios, who was a titan, his job is to drive the chariot of fire pulled by 4 horses across the sky every single day. He sees everything that happens on the earth because he's up there. That's why people swear oaths to Helios. Helios be my witness. He saw it. In the classical periods, from the 800s to 300s BCE, Apollo and Helios were two different and separate gods. If Demeter wanted to know who kidnapped her daughter Cori, known later as Persephone, she asked Helios because he saw it from the sky. She doesn't ask Apollo. In Hellenistic period, after 300 BCE, poets began to blend them. By the time you get to the Romans, they are merged completely, which brings you to now. According to the Romans, Apollo drives the sun chariot. That's the later version. In the movie Percy Jackson, Apollo drives the chariot to reflect the change in roles and deleting a god from the Greek history. If you want to be correct, for most of Greek history, use this one-liner. Helios is the sun, Apollo shines like the sun. Helios is, or not Helios, Apollo is moral and intellectual light. Helios is the big ball of fire. Let me go ahead and see. How do you can call him by people for healing would actually just say Apollo heal me. For a prophecy, Apollo help me with this to find the truth. You just call him by his name and ask him. Well, we will definitely catch you on the replay, Renette. Thank you so much for coming. In prophecy, music, archery, plague, healing, and light, what's the connection? It's all about imposing order upon chaos. Prophecy takes the chaos of the future and makes it knowledgeable. Music takes noise and makes it harmony. Archery is precision against randomness. Plague is punishment for breaking sacred law. Healing is restoring the body's order. Light exposes what's hidden. Apollo is the god who draws boundaries and says, this, not that. Do this, not that. That's the god of law that you're seeing with that. That is the civilization. That is who he is. He's very much orderly. His major sanctuary is Delphi. Apollo has temples everywhere, but 3 sites matter the most. Delphi was the center of his worship. This is where his oracle was. The Greeks actually believed It was the omphalus, the navel, or the belly button of the world. There's a myth that Zeus wanted to find the center of the earth, so he released two eagles on the opposite ends of the world, and they met at Delphi. There's a stone there's a stone in the museum there carved to look like a beehive covered in netting. That marks the exact spot where the eagles met. Delphi wasn't always Apollo's. Originally, it belonged to Gaia, the earth goddess, and it was guarded by the serpent Python. We remember Python, the one that tried to eat Leto. When Apollo was 4 days old, he hunted down Python, killed it with his arrows, and took over the oracle. But even a god can't just commit murder and walk away. Apollo had to be purified for the bloodshed. He went to the Vale of Tempe and cleansed himself. That detail is important. It tells the Greeks that even gods must follow rules about pollution and purity. Apollo represents the new Olympian order, defeating the old chthonic chaos, but he still respects the rules. Every 4 years, they held the Pythian Games in Delphi. These were second only to the Olympics in importance. They had athletic contests as well as music and poetry contests. The prize wasn't money, it was a wreath made of laurel leaves. That's from the story of Daphne, which we will get there. Delos was his birthplace. It was also sacred by the 5th century BCE. Athenians made a law. No one was allowed to be born or die in Delos. If you were pregnant or dying, they put you on a boat and ferried you to the next island over. Delos was also where the Athenians kept the treasury for their empire. So it was sacred and rich. Sacred plus power sacred plus money equals power. It was the most powerful area in the area. The third major site was Daimala and Claros on the coast of Asia Minor, today Turkey. They were also major oracles. Daimire had a huge temple to Apollo. The oracle there also spoke in verse, just like in Delphi. This is the story of how Apollo got his laurel, the myth of Daphne. This starts out because Apollo gets cocky. He just killed the python at Delphi with his bow, and he sees Eros, the little god of love, also carrying bows and arrows. Apollo laughs at him. He says, basically, this is going to be an interpretation of it. What's a kid like you going around with grown-up weapons? That bow is for real men who fight monsters. You stick to your torches and make people fall in love. Let the real men handle the bow and arrows. Eros doesn't say anything. He just flies up on a cliff and pulls out 2 arrows from his quiver. One is gold and barbed. One causes overwhelming, obsessive love. The other is lead and blunt. That one causes revulsion and hatred of love. He shoots Apollo with the gold arrow. He shoots Daphne with the lead arrow. Daphne, who is a nymph, loves the woods, hunting, and being free. Her father was a river god. She swore that she wants to stay a virgin forever, so she's one of Artemis's entourage. As soon as Apollo sees her because of that golden arrow, he is completely in love, heads over heels in love, lust, the epiphany of a obsessed stalker, which is where I think a lot of modern literature gets that from, and that's why he becomes that character. But you have to remember he was shot with an arrow. And because of Daphne being shot with the lead arrow, when she sees Apollo, all she feels is fear and disgust. Again, neither one of these actually felt this way towards each other. It was 100% karma getting him. All right, Ellen, it was nice having you on. It was good seeing you. I definitely can't wait to hear what you say in the replay. Apollo starts chasing her through the woods, but she just runs harder. The more she runs, the more he wants her and the more he chases her. Finally, she gets to a river. This is one of her father's domain. She's exhausted. She can hear Apollo coming right behind her, and she cries out, "Father, help me! If the rivers here have divine power, destroy my beauty that's causing me so much trouble." Because she doesn't realize they have been shot with a bow and arrow. She just thinks Apollo thinks she's really, really hot, not that he is basically cursed to love her. Her prayer is answered immediately by her father. Her skin starts turning into bark. Her feet root into the earth, and her arms become branches. Her hair becomes leaves, and her face is the last thing to change, which is what this picture is of the hands. I couldn't show the whole picture because of Facebook, but it's basically a picture of him and her, and she's changing into the tree. Apollo throws his arms around the trunk and feels her heart even now beating underneath the new bark. He kisses the wood. Then he makes a vow. He says, "Since you can't be my wife, you will be my tree. My hair, my lyre, and my quiver will always have you. You will crown poets. Your leaves will never wither." And then when Romans took over the religion, Romans generals were crowned with the laurel wreaths when they came home triumphant. This is also why a laurel tree is an evergreen. What it meant to the Greeks: first, it's the original story. It explains why Apollo wears his laurel wreath crown and why laurel wreaths were given to winners at the Pyrrhonian Games and the Olympics, I believe, and to great poets. Laurel becomes a symbol of victory and Apollo himself. Second, it's about unfulfilled desire. The Greeks don't think that gods got away with everything they wanted. Even Apollo, who was beautiful, powerful, and perfect, experiences loss. But he transforms that loss into something permanent and beautiful. Art and honor literally grows from rejection. Third, it's a warning. Apollo's hubris is what started it. He insults Eros. He thinks love is beneath him. Eros proves him wrong in a most beautiful and brutal of ways. The message is, don't mock the other gods' domains. Every god has power, and if you disrespect it, you will be the victim of that power, and they will use it on you. Laura, yes, the Greeks are very dramatic. So the arrows in your dreams, Jenny, could be either Apollo or Artemis, very possibly. I definitely would check into that, connect to both of them. And yes, Apollo and the Greek gods are very dramatic. So here's myth number 2, since I love to give 3 myths. Marsyas. This one is really harsh. Marsyas is a satyr. I cannot talk right now. So he's half man, half goat. They're wild. Tied to Dionysus, to wine, and to music and sex. The story starts with Athena. She invents the allos, a double pipe, like 2 recorders you play at once. She's proud of it until she sees her reflection while she plays it. Her cheeks puff out and she thinks it looks ugly, so she throws it away and curses anyone who picks it up. Marsyas finds it. He picks it up. He's a natural. He practices and he gets incredibly good. People start saying he's as good as Apollo. Marsyas hears this and he believes it. He gets arrogant. He goes to Apollo and challenges him in a music contest. The lyre against the allos. Apollo against a satyr. Muses agree to judge. Round 1. Marsyas plays the allos. It's emotional, wild, incredible. The trees dance. The rivers stop to listen. Apollo plays the lyre. It's ordered, clear, and mathematical. Stones listen. The muses can't decide. It's a tie. So Apollo proposes round 2 with new rules. He says, now we play our instruments upside down. He flips his lyre over and keeps playing. It sounds almost the same. Marsyas tries to play the allos upside down. He can't. You can blow into it. You have to blow into it. You can't blow into the bottom. Round 2 goes to Apollo. Apollo says, now we sing while we play. He sings a hymn to the gods while his fingers work the lyre. Marsyrius puts the aloes to his mouth and he can't sing. His mouth is full. Apollo wins. Now comes the punishment. He challenged the god. He committed hubris. That's the Greek word for dangerous pride, for crossing the line between mortal and immortal. Apollo ties him to a pine tree and flays him alive. This is brutal. He cuts his skin off. He screams. Apollo cuts his skin off, and he screams so loud that his fellow satyrs and nymphs and even the gods weep. Their tears become the river Pygenia. I am so tongue-tied with all the Greek names. And they name the river Marsyas. It's a battle between cosmos and chaos. The lyre is cosmos. It's rational, mathematical. You can write the notes down. You can sing the words with it. Words mean logos, reason. The alos is emotional, breath-driven, wild. It's Dicenian. It's ecstasy. Apollo defends order, rules, boundaries, and superiority of rational art. The message is art has laws. Music has structure. You can have talent, but you can defy that structure. If you claim your wild beauty, breathy art is equal to order, reasonable art. You can be destroyed. It's also the ultimate warning about hubris. Do not challenge a god at his own specialty. He was as a cautionary tale. It reinforces the core value. Know your place, know thyself, nothing in excess, which is Apollo's sayings. The gods, I remember back in the 90s, there was a TV show that Hercules, and they would say the gods are petty and cruel. It wasn't really that the gods were petty and cruel, it was that human beings need order, and not just humans, but mortals in general. And this was one of those things where you get told that you are told that you are better than a god, and you challenge the god, and then you lose because the god is literally the god of music. So it's one of those things that you don't let pride. That is what it's actually about. It's about not letting pride get to you. Because again, the message of the story is know thyself, know your place, nothing access. So my final myth, I know it says myth 4 here, I obviously can't count. Myth 3 is Niobe. She is the queen of thieves. She's the daughter of the king who was famous, of a different king, who was famous for offending the gods. So we're starting off strong. Her husband was Athenion, who built the walls of Thebes by playing the lyre. The stones moved themselves into place because his music was so beautiful. So Niobe is royalty, and she has divine connections. She also has 14 children, 7 sons, 7 daughters. All of them are beautiful and strong, and she's incredibly proud of them. Here comes hubris again. One day at a festival for Leto in Thebes, Leto's only had 2 children, Apollo and Artemis. Now, granted, her children are a god and goddess, and Leto herself is a titaness. The women of Thebes were making offerings and praying to Leto. Niobe walks into the cloud and stops and says, "Why are you worshiping Leto? Look at me. I am more beautiful than her. I have a better father, a better husband, and I have 14 children. She only has 2. I'm more blessed by the gods than she is. You should be worshiping me." The first son falls off his horse. The second tries to run, but the arrow gets him in the back. They realize what's happening, and they huddle together, but Apollo picks them off. 7 sons, 7 arrows, all dead. Word gets back to Thebes. Niobe is in the palace with her daughters. She's still arrogant. She still says to Leto, "Fine, you have 2. I still have 7. I win." Artemis is already there with her bow. She kills the 7 daughters one by one inside the palace. Niobe begs for her youngest daughter. She clenches her and screams, "Leave me this one, just one." Apollo's last arrow is already in the air. It kills the girl in Niobe's arms. So this is the one time Apollo will actually kill a girl. because maybe Artemis hesitated. Niobe's husband kills himself from grief. Niobe doesn't cry. She doesn't speak. She turns to stone. The wind picks her up and carries her to her homeland in Asia Minor. There she sits as rock. Water perpetually runs down the stone face like tears. The Greeks say you could go see her. What it meant to the Greeks, this is hubris in the purest form. Niobe attacks a goddess's time. Time means honor, status, that respects your owed. The Greeks believed that your time was everything. Insulting a mother's children was worse than attacking her time personally. Niobe didn't just insult Leto. She also told the whole city to stop worshiping her, which is a goddess. She's a goddess. She's a titaness. The punishment is total. The gods did not kill Niobe. They killed everything she was proud of. Then they leave her to feel it forever. That is what hubris gets you. It also shows Apollo and Artemis as a team. Apollo kills the boys, Artemis kills the girls. They are twins. They work together. They defend their mother together. They are the far shooters. They don't have to come into a city. They don't have to fight. They kill from a distance with perfect accuracy. For the Greeks, this story reinforces the social order. Know your place relative to the gods. Know your place relative to other people. Pride is dangerous. The gods are not fair or proportional. They are absolute. If you cross the line, they will erase you. The statue of Niobe on Mount Cephalus was a natural rock formation that resembles a weeping woman. Greeks would point to it and say, see, this is what happens. It makes the myth physical. You can visit the consequences. Yes, the Greeks definitely made some epic stories, and it definitely was one of those things that she basically got herself in trouble by taunting the gods. And then when all of her sons died, she was stupid enough, because she was that proud, to say, well, I still have 7 and you have 2. And so they took the 7 away. It is that checks and balances type of thing. So next we're going to go on to his lovers and children. Apollo's love life follows a pattern. He gives someone a gift, they reject him or die. Something beautiful or useful is created from the loss. His children tend to inherit pieces of his domains. Asclepius, his son, with Cronos, becomes the god of medicine. See, I did write his name down. Apollo actually saves baby Asclepius from Cronos' funeral pile after he has her killed for cheating on him. Orpheus, his son, with the muse Calliope, becomes the greatest musician who ever lives. He can charm Hades with his song. Ion, his son with Cassius, becomes an ancestor to the Illuminates, one of the main Greek tribes. Aristoseus, his son with Crane, becomes the god of beekeeping, cheese making, and olive growing. Civilization skills. His loves. Daphne becomes a laurel. Chronosius dies, but Asclepius is given to Apollo. And Apollo turns his meshal raven from white to black for bringing him bad news of her cheating. So that's how the raven became black. So that explains how a raven is black. Ravens were originally white, but he had him stalk his lover, and he finds out that she's cheating, and so he's so mad he turns a white bird black. Cassandra of Troy is another one. He gives her the gift of prophecy because he wants her. She promises to sleep with him, then changes her mind and refuses. He can't take the gift back once it's given. That's the rules even for gods. But he can add a condition. So he slips in her mouth and curses it. He spits in her mouth and curses it so that no one will ever believe her true prophecies. She predicts the fall of Troy. She warns them about the wooden horse. She tells them exactly what's going to happen. Everybody thinks she's crazy. She lives through the whole war knowing the future and being powerless to change it. That's Apollo's revenge. It's worse than death. And then he also had male lovers. Hyacinthus became the Hepcanthius flower. We're told that story. Cypricius, another young man he loved, had a pet stag he adored. He accidentally killed it with a javelin while it was sleeping. He was so devastated that he asked to mourn forever. Apollo turned him into a cypress tree, which became the Greek symbol of mourning in cemeteries. So the pattern is clear. Apollo loves and it ends in transformation. A person is gone, but something beautiful or useful remains. Laurel for victory. Hecathius for spring and remembrance, cypress for grief. Medicine, music. The Greeks thought that was how the world worked. Loss creates culture. His associates, the muses, always. He is the leader of the muses. He is the musigates, which is the Greek term. I think I said that wrong. They are the 9 goddesses of arts and sciences, and he's the one who organizes them. And Hermes. Hermes is his baby brother who steals his cattle on day 1. Then they fight. Then Hermes gives him the lyre, and they are best friends. Hermes is trickery, luck, boundaries, thieves, and merchants. Apollo is truth, order, prophecy, and music. The Greeks like that the 2 brothers were opposites but got along. You need both in the world. You need truth, but you also need a guy who can slip through the cracks. Wondering, yes, Apollo had male and female lovers, as we saw. The Greeks didn't have our category of classification for same-sex relationships. For them, the important thing was status and age. Apollo was always older, attractive, and pursuing partner. That was what mattered. The gender wasn't the point. Love is love. So these are his main symbols. It's a cheat sheet. Does anybody have any questions? It was to Athena to have male and female lovers. That was very normal, especially for the gods and goddesses, mainly the gods, because there wasn't like a blindness to that. If you're in a museum and you see a beardless youth, here's how you know it's Apollo. Check what he's holding. The lyre means music, poetry, harmony, and rational art. The bow and arrow means distance, plague, sudden death, and punishment of hubris. The laurel wreath means Daphne, victory, purification, and poetic achievement. A tripod, so I should probably be pointing at these. So this is the lyre. This is more of a harp looking one, but it was hard to find something that had all of them together. Here's the bow and arrow. I don't know why it's going through the poor crow or raven. This is the tripod, the laurel wreath. The tripod means Delphi and prophecy. The stone means navel of the world, Delphi's authority. The raven is his messenger. It was white until it brought him bad news, and he turned it black. The swan pulls his chariot in some stories, and it sings beautifully right before it dies. So swans mean beauty, and the last perfect performance. A mouth means, where's the mouse? Mouse Apollo. You can call on it to stop plagues, because a mouse spreads diseases. Let me see. A dolphin means Delophos because it once turned into a dolphin to guide sailors. His epithets are like job titles on a business card. Fibrous means right and perp. That's the standard on Homer's uses. Lexuous means oblique or riddling. Delphi for Delphi. Musicets means muse leader for music. Perion means healer for medicine. Alexicusto means averter of evil for general protection. Hecablos means far shooter for archery, and Agarian means of steel for the pillar outside your house. Yes, a dolphin. A dolphin in Greek mythology, or in Greek times, there was a Greek mythology myth that meant a guide the sailors in. and it was linked to Apollo. I think that has to do with him more being the sun god. He was such a like universal god that they pretty much kept him the same. So you know how like for example Artemis became Diana and some of her roles changed? Rome kept Apollo exactly the same. So Apollo today, how do we all know Apollo? Mainly the space mission. We all know about going to the moon, which I always thought was funny because his sister is the moon goddess. But we also see him in, for example, Percy Jackson, and in modern romances and things like that as well. So the world is still very much obsessed with him. So today he is seen as vain and poetic and drives the sun chariot and writes terrible haikus. That's the modern blend version. People let the laurel wreath tattoos mean victory or achievement. People get know thyself tattoos. NASA named the moon mission the Apollo program. Why name a moon mission after the sun god? Because Apollo means light, knowledge, rational achievement, pushing human boundaries. He means order and excellence. Here's a field note from me. If you teach a Greek myth, start with Apollo because he's visual, he's complex, and he forces you to explain Greek values. He's the whole culture. And I think through time, I think the modern times really leans into him being very vain. I was reading a book, The Blood of Hercules, which actually follows the Chthonic people, and they made Artemis a mother, which I love. Karen, her son, but she would never have children. And the boys from House Apollo were right vain, right jerks. See, Rosin says sometimes the animals seem so random, but oftentimes books give abridged versions of their history. This is true. We don't have the real reasons why they have so many animals and why Apollo has the swan. Well, I guess the swan makes a little bit more sense, or the dolphin. But if you think about it, the sun is something that sailors would use as well. Laura, I'm in Florida too. I'm not in the same county as NASA, but I'm down in Tampa. Thank you so much. I also love the fact that our new space program is the Artemis rockets because it kind of does have the twins. Apollo was first and now Artemis. Let's recap on the main takeaways. 1, order and harmony, music, law, purification, moderation, boundaries, know thyself. Nothing is an access. Apollo is the principle of the cosmos versus chaos. Number 2, the double edge. He heals and he brings plague. He loves and he destroys. He's distant and precise. He's beautiful, but he can flay you alive. The Greeks didn't want comfort from their gods. They wanted justice and clarity. Apollo gives you that, even if it hurts. Number 3, the mediator. He stands between Zeus and the mortals. He translates divine will into human terms through prophecy, music, and law. He's how gods talk to us without incinerating us. He is definitely the go-between. He is the one that you see mostly linked to the humans because of the prophecy. In one sentence, Apollo is the Greek ideal man, the beautiful and the good, excellence of the body, mind, character, and held in balance. The question isn't why Apollo does so many jobs. The question is what kind of culture thinks all these jobs belong to the same god? The answer is a culture that thought beauty was order, that music was math, that medicine and plague were two sides of one coin, that the most important things were knowing yourself and not going too far. That is all that is embodied in Apollo. So, I want to take a moment and ask a couple questions. What surprised you most? Which myth surprised you most? Can you think of a model equivalent to any of Apollo's roles? And after hearing this, if you were anti-Apollo going into this, has your view on him changed now knowing that he really did get it handed to him? And in Greek mythology, the gods and goddesses weren't above us. They followed the same rules, and had the same punishments. Oh, I know. Yeah, where he flayed the man alive. Yes, that was definitely one Ramsay Bolton. Gosh, I love that Game of Thrones. I love the actor that plays Ramsay Bolton so much. But I feel so bad for Theon Greyjoy. Yeah, Apollo has two sides. He definitely does. He is where Apollo was the girl's girl, or not Apollo, where Athena was the girl. Athena, wow, I am tired. Where Artemis was the girl's girl. Apollo is the civilization's boy. I know, definitely the changing of the white bird to black just tells you how emotionally involved he was with this particular lover and how upset he was that she cheated on him. I think she was almost wifey status. Definitely consort. So he really took it hard. So he saved his child but killed his wife. And I'm pretty sure Artemis had something to do with it too, because of the sudden death. So next month is going to be our part 2 of 3, which is going to be how to work with him in witchcraft and how to set up his altar and everything that I did with Artemis. Be prepared for a lot of like light and solar magic in that group. Does anybody have any other questions before I hop off? Well, I hope everybody has a great night, and thank you again for joining me. Bye.